Hey y'all, it's me again. It's Eric. Tonight, I'm still chewing on that same question of race, class, and inequality. I was thinking, I was thinking really about what's going on still in Ferguson. There's still a lot of people on the ground. There's still a lot of anger on the ground, understandably so. I think that within the past weekend, I want to say it was like Thursday, Friday night, another young brother was shot down 16 times by a police officer, not once, not twice, but 16 times he was shot. The police said that the young man fired at him. Uh, Onlookers, bystanders said that the boy was carrying a sandwich. They said that they retrieved a gun, but it that to me is the irrelevant part. I think that what's necessary to understand is that this is also too following another segregated incident. Didn't even happen in Missouri, where you saw recently too in this week's headline where there was a black family. They were in the car. The mother was driving, the father was in the passenger seat, and then there were two children, one being 14, and I want to say the other one was like 7, sitting in the back seat. They were pulled over, minor traffic violation of not wearing a safety belt. With it, there was within a matter of, I'm imagining, probably minutes, a swarm of police officers surrounding the car. They asked for the gentleman to provide identification. um, he had said that he didn't have his physical license due to his license being revoked for some other petty reason, which was irrelevant to the reason as to why he didn't have it in the passenger seat. Yet he attempted to do his best to show um, other signs of identification. With that, things began to escalate, and something that was just the most the grotesque and disgusting thing I think I saw of it was when a police officer literally took a nightstick and bashed open the window, glass shattering in the back seat against the 14-year-old and the 7-year-old child. Um, we really do have to understand that there is a deep-seated hate and anger that still is very prevalent in our country. With that too, I think that it goes even further, where you understand that yes, it feels like it's concentrated around black people specifically, yet at the same time, another it's we have to also to understand the shift of paradigm, because to me, it's no longer just black people; it's mostly poor people. Black people are easily cited and probably the most to be immediately reduced to being of a different class or a different stature, but really we're working with the caste system, and we have to really, really wrap our minds around that. When we look at prison rates, yes, most of those who are frequently incarcerated are people of color, blacks and Hispanics being the highest incarcerated individuals, but really those two that make up the other portions are generally poor and uneducated people. Ironically enough, this is the 50th year anniversary. Back in July, we had it. It's the 50th year anniversary that President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act into law. And that was where the country made it illegal to um, to deny a person voting rights, to deny a person entrance into public spaces, to deny them education based off of their race, their class, their gender, or their country of origin. With that, I would say that immediately thereafter, ranging from really about 1968 to 1980, statistics show that that was when integration of the schools was at its highest point. That was where blacks and whites went to school with each other. But after about the 80s, and really after markets began to take off here in the United States, something that we saw that was legal, um, but that really kind of put a wrench in everything, was a resegregation of the United States. So it wasn't necessarily that you just had the rich, excuse me, that you just had blacks and whites where they were integrating. What you had was what you began to see was the rich isolating themselves from people of color. Perhaps that was from some type of innate fear of other races. Perhaps that was because of some type of innate prejudice of other races, or just simply because the affluent felt that they were better. But what happens is that when you began to see a shift of societies resegregating themselves, you you saw a detriment to the education of African American people again. You saw really the highest rates of integration were in Latino and African American neighborhoods, but it was not African Americans infiltrating white neighborhoods. It was not Hispanics infiltrating white neighborhoods, not on the larger majority of it here in the United States. So what you see is that there's this auto criminality, this crypto fascism that automatically puts people of other race, excuse me, of other classes at risk of really failing here in America. You set them up for lack of jobs, you set them up for lack of educational opportunities, and then what you see is an overrun in criminality. Since 1980, I saw a recent statistic where since 1980, I think California has built something like 22, 24 prisons and zero universities. And so you see that there is more of a concentration on uh, criminality and how to house and how to sequester criminals from society. Um, but you don't see an interest in education. Well, how do you fix that? Well, that type of fix is very simple. You stop allowing for federal governments to overfund police forces and things like that. Because when police have forces, what do? They buy more guns. They buy. They invest in. Um, invest in incarceration. Um, in order for them to do that, they meet quotas. They want to know, the United States government wants to know, well, how many people did you arrest for drug crimes? It doesn't matter if they predaciously went after the people. It doesn't matter if they overlooked those, both on purpose or uh, subconsciously, who may in fact be more guilty. But you essentially, you drive up a rate of incarceration in order for you to receive government stipends. With those stipends, you increase the amount of incarcerated individuals in the United States. So when you see things like that, you understand very quickly that if you want to change, you start doing minimal things. Stop investing in prisons. Stop investing in incarceration. Start investing in education, because I mean, it's crippling statistics that those generally who go to college generally don't tend to get arrested. They don't tend um, to find themselves captured in the life of criminality. But we have to understand that it's not just necessarily when you're 18 that you make that decision. This is something that most cultures and societies train their children to do from very young ages on up. And so when you have a society that has been literally molested with inequality, and that's been literally devastated by systematic oppression, it's difficult to say, oh, just go to school and you'll avoid that. And so, but when you look at the alternative of what's going on, when you look at how they treat you, not necessarily just because of your skin color, but because of your economic background. Nowhere in the Civil Rights Act does it talk about people of lower income class settings having the rights to American democracy. It says people of race, creed, etc., so on and so forth. But I think that that's one of the little caveats that's been able to create such a massive amount of inequality in our country that has survived, succeeded, and proliferated itself for going on 50 years now. So, I mean, I guess it's just in reflection. It's like, yes, there is still a huge, devastating amount of inequality that is thrusted towards people of color. It is not just people of color, it's also people of lower income, lower education, lower ability to protect themselves against a system that's predaciously hunting them. I'm out.